Alright, so Hytale just dropped by far its biggest blog post ever, giving us our first proper look at Chapter 1 and a ton of features that are currently in development. From a brand new dungeon with a boss fight, a complete rework of the Goblin factions with a new event, gadgets, rune abilities, and so much more, here's everything you need to know about Hytale Chapter 1. The first thing the devs made it clear is that up until now, they've mostly been rebuilding the game's foundations. So they had to go back to a version of Hytale that was already more than 4 years old. Because of that, most of the work has gone into rebuilding the tools, the technology, and expanding the team. But now they finally feel like they're in a position where they can start focusing on actual gameplay, which is why they're giving us an early look at Chapter 1 instead of keeping everything secret until launch. So first of all, they showcase the first handcrafted dungeon in Hytale. This dungeon will introduce the game's first multi-phase boss fight, meaning the battle changes as you progress through it instead of just fighting a single enemy with just one attack pattern. The devs also explained that these encounters are powered by a new system called the Encounter Manager, which lets designers build boss fights and events without needing engine programmers. Even better, the same systems will be available to modders, so players will eventually be able to create their own boss fights and custom encounters. Chapter 1 also puts a huge focus on the Goblin faction. Instead of just being basic enemies, now goblins come with different roles, personalities, and sizes. Some of them are elite enemies with unique mechanics, like the Fistmaster, who can call in reinforcements, charge at the player, and destroy parts of the environment during combat. Interestingly, not every goblin is hostile. Some are actually friendly NPCs, including a goblin merchant that players can interact with. Sounds really familiar. To go alongside the goblins, Hytale is adding a brand new world event called the Goblin Breach. After progressing through the opening chapter, portals can randomly appear around the world. Entering one takes you to a temporary version of Orbis that has been taken over by goblins and the Void. Every time you enter, the world is generated differently, so each run should feel unique. While you're inside, the Void slowly closes in, putting pressure on you to explore quickly, collect valuable loot, complete activities, and survive before you're forced back to your normal world. These worlds will also contain special activities like predators you can hunt, Void assassins that can actively chase you, treasure chests that trigger enemy ambushes, environmental puzzles, and other random encounters. The devs say this is just the beginning, and they plan to keep expanding these events over future chapters. The Forgotten Temple is also becoming much more important. It will act as your main progression hub throughout early access. As new chapter release, the temple itself will evolve alongside your adventure. Of course, it wouldn't be a Goblin update without gadgets. Chapter 1 introduces several new pieces of equipment, including rocket boosts, a mechanical hookshot, a glider, a mining drill, a spyglass, and a boat? Which is not related, by the way, with the goblins, but still pretty cool. The devs admitted that some of these items probably won't be perfectly balanced at launch, but that's not that important because they're really fun. Another interesting mechanic is the ability to physically carry objects around the world. Instead of instantly picking everything up into your inventory, players will be able to carry things like chests and explosive barrels by hand. The devs also want to expand this mechanic in the future so players can carry down teammates. But this feature won't arrive until a later chapter. And now for something very exciting. New rune ability system. Instead of forcing players into fixed classes, you'll equip runes that grant active combat abilities, while separate modifier runes completely change how those abilities behave. For example, a fireball could split into multiple projectiles or gain entirely new effects. The devs also want different elements to interact with each other, like shocking wet enemies or freezing water. They even showed examples of multiplayer combos where one player's tornado could combine with another player's fireball to create a flaming tornado. It's still an early version of the system, but it's clearly designed to encourage experimentation rather than one best build. On the graphical side, Hytale is finally adding real transparency. This means things like stained glass and transparent window blocks will finally render correctly, instead of using the old fake transparency technique. Even NPCs can now have transparent body parts. The user interface is also getting a major redesign. Chapter progression will now be presented much more clearly, almost like a roadmap that tracks your objectives and rewards you with cosmetics as you complete them. They've also redesigned item tooltips to make them cleaner and easier to read, while previewing future systems like memories and player profile cards. Customization is another big focus. Chapter 1 will introduce a large batch of new cosmetics, especially Goblin themed rewards, along with improvements to the avatar creator, including more detailed hands, eyelashes, and additional customization options. Outside of the main adventure mode, the team is also working on minigames. The first release will include around 14 different party games, each lasting between 1 and 2 minutes. Long term, they want to expand this into PvP experiences, larger multiplayer games, and even allow modders to create their own minigames using the same tools the developers are building. The blog also showed several features arriving before or around Chapter 1. A built-in mod browser will let players browse, install, and update mods without leaving the game. The devs confirm there won't be paid mods, although creators may eventually receive support through cosmetic rewards instead. The technology behind the world itself is also changing drastically. Hytale is switching to cubic chunks, meaning the world loads in 3 dimensions instead of huge vertical columns. So this basically means you can make the underground infinite if you really want to. On top of that, they're continuing work on World Gen V2. This new generation system is designed to create much more natural caves, river roads, villages, cities, and procedural dungeons. So yeah, as you can see in these images, it looks incredibly pretty. And also the dev said to look up, because the sky is getting real volumetric clouds. They're currently experimenting with them, so they're not close to where they want them to be, but they just wanted to share some progress. And as you can see, they look absolutely amazing. Crafting is being completely redesigned as well. Instead of relying on lots of different crafting benches, more activities will happen directly in the world through things like chopping wood and metalworking. The devs also revealed companions, NPCs that can move into your home and help automate certain tasks, making your base feel more like a living village. However, this feature is planned for Chapter 2 because it still needs a lot more work. Filmmakers also have something to look forward with the new machinima tools. Players will be able to record gameplay, replay scenes, create cinematics, and even collaborate with friends while editing. And finally, Hytale is introducing spectator mode and hardcore mode. So in hardcore, death is permanent. If you die, you lose everything you are carrying and continue watching your friends as a spectator instead of respawning. The first version will simply focus on permadeath, with harder challenge modes coming later. They also provided some rough timelines. Chapter 1 and the first batch of minigames are currently expected within the next 2 to 3 months, while features like the mod browser, spectator mode, moving platforms, and several engine improvements should begin arriving in pre-releases very soon. So yeah, I'm really glad they're going all in with the first chapter. And so far, it looks promising. It's easily the biggest dev update the game has ever received, and so far, I've seen a lot of very positive feedback. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.